Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today I'm going to be going over 10 vehicles that I dislike in GTA Online. So if one of these cars is your favorite car, I am sorry, I apologize in advance, but I'm just not a super huge fan of any of these cars. Anyway guys, let's get into it with number 10. Alright guys, the first vehicle that I kinda don't like in GTA is the Vapid Slam Van. Now there's a couple reasons I don't really like this thing. Overall, I like the look of the vehicle. I gotta say, it's a pretty good looking vehicle. However, it's not my style. This thing will spin its wheels for literally days. It handles quite terribly, and yes, I do realize it's a pickup truck. It's not exactly supposed to be a great handling vehicle. Fully comprehend and understand that. However, it's still just not my style. Now, I'm into older cars, but I'm not super into hot rods, personally at least, so the Slam Van doesn't really do much for me. Couple that with the insane wheel spin that it gets off the line, which means it kind of has bad acceleration, and its handling, again, is just not very good. And it's just kind of slow, man. Like, I don't know. The Vapid Slam Van, if you guys like it, like, it's fine. But for me personally, the Slam Van just does not do anything for me. With that being said, it's not the worst vehicle ever. If you guys like the look of it, then I'd say, you know, at the very least, test it out. But be warned, the performance is not exactly ideal. Let's just say that. Anyway, guys, that is it for number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Alright guys, next up at number 9, we have a car that I'm not mad at it, I'm just disappointed. The ENUS Euros is based off of a Nissan 370Z in real life, and I do really like the 370Z, and honestly, the Euros at face value is a pretty good looking car. It kind of looks just like the 370Z in real life. On that front, the car isn't that bad. However, where the problems start is with the handling, the performance, and, well, the back of this car. Whatever Rockstar did to the back of this thing was a complete miss. I'm disappointed. The back end is just, it looks nothing like a 370 with the exception of the shape of it. However, beyond the shape, it's like nothing like the 370. And with how Rockstar likes to copyright infringe usually, I'm just a bit disappointed with it, that's all. Now, the performance of the vehicle is not that bad, which is why it's pretty high on this list. I don't hate this car with all my heart. I actually own one of these, so I like it to a degree, that's for sure. However, it doesn't handle very well, even with spoiler equipped. It's not that fast, the acceleration is not that good, top speed is very weak. Overall, there's not a lot to like about this car if you don't have a love for 370Zs already. Overall, the Euros is just kind of a disappointment. Still pretty cool. I like the car. I drive a G37 in real life, which has the same motor as the 370, so I was just hoping to see a little bit better, but I guess low-key they kind of made it accurate to the VQ in real life where it's just slow as hell. So anyway guys, that's it for number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Alright guys, next up we have the overflowed Xeno. Now this is going to be one that's probably going to get me in some trouble, but the Xeno I feel like is low-key like one of the worst vehicles we got from the contract DLC. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty quick, it has its fair share of issues. The Xeno kind of adds to the supercars category, a car that doesn't really need to exist. We've already got too many supercars in the game. I would have rather seen a different supercar get added than the overflowed Xeno. I'm honestly not even sure what this thing's supposed to be based off of. I guess the SSC Tuatara, which is, well, kind of a disappointment in real life too. There's also a huge issue that still hasn't been addressed by Rockstar with this car's mirrors. If you equip aftermarket mirrors, anything other than stock, this car, whenever you hit a curb or something like that, will just randomly lift up in the air. And now it doesn't sound like it's that big of an issue to begin with, but I mean, you guys just saw that. The car will just randomly decide to jump, and you just kind of have to react to it, and most of the time you can't react to it. So that's probably this car's biggest problem. Overall, I'm not a super huge fan of the looks of it either, and the performance is, well, it's the second best in the contract DLC, but in the game, it's like in the 20s or the 30s for like the fastest supercar around a track. It's not exactly very good. The customization is pretty lackluster as well, in my opinion, and the handling is not as good as you would expect from a supercar that costs almost $3 million. Overall, the Xeno, in my opinion, is a bit of a disappointment. I'm not a huge fan. that's kind of all I got to say. Let's move on to number 7. Alright guys, next up, yes, we have the Pegasi Tesseract. You guys have probably seen me kind of sneak diss this car in the past, and I've probably said in a few comments that I don't mind this car, but the truth is I really don't like the Tesseract, and I'm not going to hide my feelings towards this car anymore. I feel like the Tesseract is one of the most underwhelming supercars in the entire game. This thing comes in at nearly $3 million, and for that price you get a car that drives around like it has McDonald's trays underneath the rear tires, or maybe some paper towel. This car handles like absolute garbage. Now, I get that it's, you know, a Fortnite Lamborghini car and it's really futuristic looking and all the, you know, all the younger guys love it, I'm sure, and maybe even some of the older guys. You know, it's a very futuristic looking car, it's very cool and epic and, you know, all that sort of stuff, but I can't lie, I am not a fan of the Tesseract. It handles terribly. The one thing this car does do really well is it accelerates well, and that's because it's electric, but also because it's electric, it has a piss weak top speed, so there's a lot of trade-offs with this car, and for $3 million, or nearly $3 million I should say, you could probably do a lot better, and as a matter of fact, I know you could do a lot better than the Tesseract. Now, if you like this car, I know I've just ragged on it pretty hard, but if you like it, that's up to you, man. Just know I can't stand this thing. The only reason it's in my garage is because, well, I don't really need the money that I would get for selling it, so it's gonna stay, I guess. And I need a car to rag on every once in a while too, so obviously, I mean, that's what this thing is for. So we're gonna move on to number 6 now. Alright guys, next up, and number 6, we have the Lampadaddy Tigon, or Tigon, however you want to say it. This car is, in theory, it's a pretty cool car, and I gotta say I am impressed with like the overall look of the vehicle and the detail within like the engine compartment and everything back there. It's just not that great of a car, really. Personally, for me, the looks of this car are something that I kind of don't love, but I can kind of appreciate it at the same time. And I think my biggest beef with this car is that I think it would be much more suited as being in the sports classic car category rather than the supercar category, because it's not very fast. You're not going to win any races with the Tigon in this game. That is something that I can almost guarantee. Unless it's a race full of these, you're not going to be beating any True Fate Thraxes, any Progen Emerus, any Kriegers. It's not going to happen. Now, if you want to drive this thing in free mode, I mean, by all means, why not, right? Now, the Tigon does actually have some pretty good customization as well. I gotta say, it could be a lot better. Overall, I just don't really like this car. I mean, I guess I don't really need to have a super justifiable reason to not like a car, but the reasons that I've given are, you know, some of the reasons I don't like this thing. Overall, I just feel like you could spend the money better than on the Tigon, but hey, that might just be my opinion. Some of you guys might really like this thing. I will say that the handling on this car is great. The acceleration is pretty decent as well, and the top speed is okay as well. So really, the Tigon is not that bad of a car. I just personally don't really like it that much. That's really all I got to say about this thing. Let's move on to number 5. Now don't worry, I've already got a noose waiting. I know the initial D guys are going to cut my life short for what I'm about to say, but the Futo GTX just doesn't do it for me. This car is good at drifting, and that's where it ends. That's the good. It's a decent drift car. Like, in real life, I get the significance of the car because of the show Initial D or whatever. I can understand people wanting to drive, like, I guess the main... I don't know anything about Initial D, let me just say that right here, but I would assume what is the main character's car, and especially, like, when you're comparing the Futo GTX to something like what's driving right beside us, the Canis Seminole, like, the Futo GTX's flaws just come to light. I mean, the Seminole is... I feel like it could literally pull on the Futo GTX. This car is so slow, it handles quite badly. It drifts though, so that's all we need, boys. The Futo GTX can drift. I'm just gonna end this here before I get myself into any more trouble. So Futo GTX, I don't like it, but it's at number 5, and I'm giving it mercy just so you guys know. This thing would be a lot higher if I didn't feel slightly threatened by the Initial D community coming for me and trying to cut my life short. So it's at number 5. I really like, yeah, I like the car. Good. Bye. Alright guys, next up we have the BF Clapter. This thing is completely terrible in every way. 3-wheeled vehicles should not be on the roads of GTA. It's just truly unsafe. They shouldn't be on the roads in real life either. This thing pretty much sucks in every foreseeable way. It's not good. It handles... It's not good. It's just not good. Now, the handling when you have grip on the one single rear tire, it's not like all bad. It's not good either. It's slow. It's got some customization, but it's just not good, man. Like the BF Clapter, like it just shouldn't exist. Could you imagine if Rockstar had given us like an Aventador SVJ instead of this thing, or I don't know, something cool? Like it'd be a lot better than the BF Clapter. You guys might like this thing, but I have no sympathy for the BF Clapter. It's just garbage. I'm done talking about this thing. Let's move on. Look at this. Oh my god. Now, I've gotten flack for this opinion before, but the Visser Neo is at number 3, and I don't understand this car. I know that it's based off of a Spiker in real life, which is actually a pretty cool car brand. In GTA, like the Visser Neo, oh my god. The Visser Neo is not exactly my favorite car. In my opinion, this thing is like absolutely horrendously ugly. And I think one of the things that definitely did it for me was when I was going through the exhaust options on this car, there is an option to have, I think it's 8 separate exhausts on this car. 4 is enough, but having the ability to put 8 is just, that's something else. Now, I know that's not exactly the car's fault, that's Rockstar's fault, but the Visser Neo handles like it's got McDonald's trays under like every single tire. It's not predictable, it's not very good, but somehow the Visser Neo, I guess by acceleration and top speed, is actually one of the better sports cars within GTA Online. Now, I don't personally recommend to use it, because if you do, I'm going to clap you in the GTO, but if you want to try out the Visser Neo, man, you can go ahead, but I'm not a fan of this car. I think it's ugly. I don't think it handles particularly well. I will say the acceleration is quite nice, and it does have a lot of customization. In my opinion, those two things are not enough to save this car. There you have it. The Visser Neo is at number 3. I hate this car. Crucify me if you want to, but that's my opinion. Let's move on to number 2, boys. Alright guys, next up we have the Chevelle Taipan. I have owned this car in the past. I got rid of it because I didn't like it. And then when I started YouTube, one day I decided, you know what, maybe I didn't give the Chevelle Taipan a fair shot. So I bought it again and I customized it. The biggest problem with this car for me is not its looks, it's its performance. The Chevelle Taipan was added with, I believe, the After Hours DLC, and almost every single car that was added with the After Hours DLC, actually I believe every car, came with a little feature called engine resistance, which was very kind of Rockstar because it completely made all of the cars that came out with that update undrivable and useless. Now, the Chevelle Taipan actually has decent handling, it has decent customization, but its biggest problem is that it has engine resistance, which, if you don't know what engine resistance is, well, I'll very quickly break it down. The vehicle should go a lot faster than it goes, but Rockstar basically put a throttler on it, which doesn't allow the vehicle to use its full power and potential. It sucks. I wish that they never did it to any car in GTA because it's ruined a lot of really good cars. But my biggest problem with the Chevelle Taipan is that this thing is absolutely massive. I don't know what it is with this car. I don't know if it's like the overextended arches or something, but this is a huge car. Especially for a supercar in GTA like the Chevelle Taipan, look how tall it is, man. Like when I stand beside it, this car is like at least half as tall as my character in the back here, if not a little bit taller than half of my character, which is, it's ridiculous. And couple that with the engine resistance problem, and it's just, I don't particularly think it's a great looking car either. Like it's okay, it's above average, but it's not the greatest car ever. And with the engine resistance and with just how big it is, and also with the back end of this thing, what is with all the empty space just above the bumper on this car? They could have come up with something better, right? I don't know. Overall, the Chevelle Taipan is just not my favorite car ever. I wish that they added something different into the game, or at the very least didn't give it engine resistance, because that absolutely kills me. Anyway guys, that is it for the Chevelle Taipan. Let's move on to the vehicle that I dislike the most in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. You guys might be able to guess. Alright guys, let's see if you guessed right. It's the Oppressor Mark II. I am the #1 hater of the Oppressor Mark II, I think. I guess I can't really say that because I actually own one. However, outside of recording a video for you guys, I have never used the Oppressor Mark II one time. I cannot stand this bike, and I know this is a very popular opinion. I know this is nothing new. Oh boy, he hates the Oppressor Mark II. Like, join the club, right? This thing, in my opinion, is one of the worst things to ever happen to Grand Theft Auto Online. completely destroying a lot of the carefully adjusted balance that was in the game. Now, you could argue that this game was never balanced and that the Mark II didn't really do anything. It just was another unbalanced item like the Hydra or the Laser, but I really do think that the Oppressor Mark II is unfair. Now, they set the price point very, very high for this vehicle, which is one of the very few saving graces with this vehicle. However, I think that Rockstar has failed to take into account that at least on the PC version, we have these guys called modders, and they can get an Oppressor Mark II without even buying one. But if they choose to buy one, I mean, it's so easy to get money in PC GTA, guys, it's ridiculous. So the PC version has probably suffered more troubles with the Oppressor Mark II than the console version, which I can hear you guys saying on console, yeah, it's pretty bad. The Mark II is just a vehicle that I feel like just should have never been added. The Oppressor Mark I was already good enough, and it was already pretty overpowered, but adding the Mark II in where you can use it and fly infinitely without ever having to touch the ground, that is something completely different than the Oppressor Mark I, where at least you have to go to the ground every once in a while to get your rocket boost back. The Mark II is just, it's a vehicle I don't respect. I mean, some of my friends will use it occasionally, and I'm not gonna, you know, kill myself or kill them, but it's a vehicle I'm very against. I really, really hope that at least in GTA 6, Rockstar will never add something like this into the game. That is my one true wish for Grand Theft Auto 6, is that the Oppressor Mark II remains out of the game. I guess we'll just have to see what happens though, hey boys? So anyway, that's it for the Oppressor. I'm gonna put this thing away until I make another video. So anyway, guys, there you have it. Those are 10 vehicles that I dislike within Grand Theft Auto Online. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you found it interesting, a like is of course appreciated, if not dislike. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.